Hi, and welcome to Focus on Fantasy Romance, where we discuss books, genre, industry, and our geeky lives. I'm going to be your host today, Paulina Woods. I'm here with Elle Clouse and A.R. Clark. Hey, I got it, okay? We're going to be doing our interview on this is why I told you I shouldn't do it. So
you're doing fine.
Forgive me as I stumble through this. And I call her the wrong name. Has been writing fantasy and science fiction romance for years and an avid participant in the monthly writing contest in November. Her first novel, Stealing the Wolf Prince, is a 2016 RONE Award finalist. Elle is happily married to a martial arts instructor. She's also the mother of 2 small boys and is constantly talking her husband out of adopting a new pet. She knits and stamps in her spare time, as well as feeds a latte addiction. Okay, first questions are going to be asked by Amy.
Okay. Hi, Elle.
Hi.
So I suppose the first question I will ask is, how long have you known you wanted to be a writer, and who inspired you most to become a published author?
I got the writing bug in, I want to say 5th or 6th grade. It was actually a writing assignment that I got from my teacher. We had to write a short story for something, and I ended up writing this kind of novel. I don't have it anymore. It was really cheesy. It was something about jungles, and it was really bad. But that's kind of where I knew I wanted to write. And I false started a bunch of stuff all the way through high school, and never really finished anything, which I think is a common trend among new authors, where they depend on inspiration to get things done. But some of my inspiration, I really love stories by Tamara Pierce. She does these young adult fantasy stories. The first one is that I love is Alana, the First Adventure, and it's a story about this young woman who trades places with her brother so that she can go to night school, and her brother wants to go to the university where wizards and women are trained to be ladies. So she becomes a squire and then works her way up to become a knight, and the whole series is focuses on Alana's story. And it's not romance per se. The romance is an element, but it's not driving force. But that was really what got me reading, and that's where I knew I wanted to write fantasy romance, or at least fantasy, because I was in denial about being a romance writer for the longest time. But she was my biggest inspiration all through high school.
Okay, so along the same lines of that topic, everybody has their favorite storylines, tropes that they like. What is the, I suppose, your favorite storyline or your favorite trope that you haven't written yet, but that you would like to write in the future?
So this is a tricky one, because I don't really have favorite tropes. I can tell you what I don't like, and I don't like the overbearing alpha male, and I don't like the strong female that suddenly becomes docile as soon as she's in a relationship. But I don't have a favorite trope. Like I know some people seriously love the friends to lovers, or we've mentioned a couple times the May-December romances. I don't really have a preference. As long as the story is strong, makes sense, and drives forward, I don't care about tropes so much.
Is there a story that's been sitting around, maybe in your head or in a notebook, that you've wanted to publish, but maybe you haven't finished it, or where it is? Is there something that holding back until the time is right, or do you pretty much publish as it goes?
Well,
how do you?
As my bio says, I'm an avid participant in the NaNoWriMo, which is the National Novel Writing Month, and it's a competition to write a novel in the month of November, so 50,000 words in that month. And I've won the competition, one meaning I reached 50,000 words in a novel like 6, 7 times. So I have a lot of work backlogged that I want to clean that up and get it published before I write too much more. However, there is a lot of side stories to existing novels that I want to also write and finish. So I have a massive binder of ideas. So whenever I have an idea, I write it down. I kind of flesh out the themes I want to explore or the characters. And a lot of times it starts with just a scene. I have a scene in my head that I want to play out. So I write that down and I save it for later. And that's actually a good process for me because I find that I can later combine ideas so that I don't have a story with 1 or 2 strong ideas. I have a whole novel of strong ideas. And it also keeps me from writing 50 million stories when I can write 3. If that makes sense. So I have a massive to-do list of things that I want to write and things I need to clean up and get done. I have, you know how they joke that you've got a to-be-read list longer than you can finish in your lifetime? I have a to-be-written list longer than what I can write in my lifetime.
So I think you're not the only person, maybe even on this podcast, who has one of those. But yeah, I think we all might have one of those to-be-written lists. But let's talk about themes. Or is there a theme or a running underlying message that you want to get across to your readers when you are writing your books? Is there something that you want them to take, or is each story basically encapsulated its own little universe where the theme might be different, or is there something, an element of all similar?
One thing I really strive for is a strong female lead that's not obnoxious. Like, she doesn't get her strength from just being loud. Like, she's got more mental fortitude. She's clever, witty. A lot of them are really sarcastic, which, if you know me, I'm really sarcastic. So I'm trying to have a strong female lead because as a young girl, that's what I was drawn to, and that's what I needed growing up, because we get a lot of negativity as females based on other people's preconceptions, the way that we are supposed to be. So I really want a strong female lead, and I want a male that listens and comprehends what the female says, like what the woman says. It's not like, oh, well, I hear you, but I know better, and we're going to do it this way. I really, again, I don't like the asshole alpha. And I'm actually doing a ton of research into craft and whatnot, and there's going to be different themes that I want to explore. At one point, I was thinking about doing kind of the tragic love story of one of my villains, and I'm not really sure if I want to publish it, but I at least want to flesh it out, and it would explain why he is the way that he is and what happened that made him almost redeemable, and then something happened and he's not. So,
well,
what?
You know, I love villains. So yeah, if you want to publish that, that'd be great, because I love villains and I love villain backstories. So yeah, I was so happy when Minions came out, and when because Despicable Me was like the villain with a secret heart of gold, and that's secret kind of story to read. So I wouldn't be adverse to reading a villain backstory every now and then. Okay, well, that wraps up my questions. So I will pass it over to Paulina and see if she has any others, and I'll in case it comes back to me next. So Paulina, what do you want to ask Elle?
Well, first I'm going to say something about the Minion story. I think my favorite, not Minion, but favorite villain was, it was a Dr. Seuss book. I think it's the Lorax. When like at the end, he was like, he's like, oh, I know I'm supposed to turn good. And this is a part where I see the error of my ways. But, and then he starts singing, let it die, like he didn't change. I think that was the most, like I watch it, just that part, just to see him, yeah. I was like, I love you. The villain's a villain and he's cute and they kicked him. But back to your story. All right, here, let me see, can we see it? No, not really. I can't get a cover. You have a, I have a, oh wait, hold on. No, I have it in my hand. Shh, put yours down. I have it, look. I forgot I had it behind me for this purpose. Love your cover. What inspired this a beautiful, amazing cover? And here's the back.
Well, I wanted the main characters on the cover, so that is Kira and Lachlan. And I wanted the whole novel takes place in the fall, and I make mention of the autumn colors a lot. So I wanted autumn color, and in the back I have a castle because she's basically trying to steal a crown. So I'm like, what represents a kingdom or a nation? I'm like, oh, we need a castle. So I'm like, I really love autumn colors, and I'm really excited we're going into autumn right now. So I was very glad I was able to find images that worked. Okay. It's very hard to find fantasy romance images.
Yeah, that I can understand. Staying on the same topic of beautiful cover, I've seen your trailer, and for the life of me, I can't do one that's that amazing. What brought about the idea for your trailer?
Well, first of all, I had a friend do it. She works for Socially Stunning, which I will put a link in the show notes. And she's got a master's in emerging media, and I'm saying it wrong, but she did the trailer for me, and I wrote this little poem for the trailer specifically, something that I wanted to sound like an old folk song. And I'm like, well, book trailers always seem to miss the mark for me because they're too long, or they're just pictures like panning across the screen, and they don't bother to find a narrator. So I went on Fiverr and I found an Irishman to narrate mine, and I found a video that worked. It was kind of vague, but worked. And I think it's great for as far as the teaser. It gives you a taste of what is in the book as far as the lore and the fantasy, and that there's a love story.
Okay. Well, I'm going to get a little bit more personal because I like that part. Your book is very clean. I think it's one of the cleanest books I've read in a long time. Like I can remember I was reading, I was like, this is good. So anything going to happen? Okay, it's really amazing. Keeps you turning from left to right. But I think in my head, clean has a different meaning, which happens. What made you write more clean romance than to say, you know, what is kind of like the norm, I guess, out there in the world right now?
Well, there's actually a whole subgenre of romance called clean romance. It's not necessarily religious in nature, but they don't have anything more steamy than like holding hands, and there's no cussing. So my heat level is still considered sweet by some definition, but definitely everything happens off the page. I think they kiss, and that's it. It was just the heat level I wanted to keep. Since my family knows what I do, I needed to keep it something that they could speak to their church friends about and not feel embarrassed. A lot can be left up to the imagination, and that's fine. Sometimes, as far as description, less is more. And so at the end of the book, they do express their feelings for one another, and the reader can take it to whatever level that they want. That's kind of the beauty of writing a story, is you can do whatever you want. I've read entire books where I've decided I did not like the main character, like her name, so I changed it.
Like as you was reading it, you changed it?
Yeah. Like, I don't like that name, so I read the whole book with her name something else. Or the author said that she's a blonde, and I'm like, no, that doesn't work for me. So mentally she's a redhead, or, you know, so I mean, writing a book, you're kind of just providing a guideline for the story, and the reader can fill in any details left unsaid. They can change things. I've read books where I didn't like the ending, so I'm like, well, scratch that. They have a happily ever after, because that's what I need.
That's the first time I've actually heard someone say that one. You were talking about crocheting or knitting, and I know that you play video games. So what are some of your favorite either video games or things to make, like when you just need to relax, you don't want to write, you don't want to read?
Well, as far as my yarn craft, I knit and crochet, so I always have like I have 4 projects kind of on the hook is the phrase. So they're in bags at various states of not being done. Like I'm making a sweater for my husband that's been working on that for like 4 years. And I've got a sweater that I'm making for myself that's also about a year old. But when push comes to shove and I just want to work on something, I always do hats because they're fairly brainless. Like I can sit there and watch TV and knit or crochet a hat, and it takes me a couple of hours and I have a finished project that makes me feel like I've accomplished something. And I've actually done some knitting and crocheting, like hats for hat drives at work, where they provide hats to inner city kids or homeless shelters or churches or clothing drives and stuff like that. So I've always got something yarn related going on. As far as video games, I play a lot of simulator games. I'm playing, like I've got Sims 4 right now, excuse me, which I actually haven't turned that on in a while, so I've probably got like, 1.5 million updates that I need to take care of. And I was really playing something called Skydy Valley, and it's a farm simulator, but there is the option to follow some romantic leads, and I was playing that instead of writing for a very long time. And like growing up, I played a lot of RPGs, which is role-playing games. And the first gaming system that we had that was worth its salt was the Super Nintendo. And we had Final Fantasy, which I think I've mentioned before. I've played all of them except for I think 10 and up. And we also played other role-playing games. Like I remember Secret of Mana. I'm pretty sure I played through that so much that I didn't need the player's guide. Like I could put it up I could not play it for months and then pick it up and know exactly where it was. That's how bad I played that. Chrono Trigger was a really good one. That was a time travel one with magic. That was really awesome. And I wish they had done, I think they made a sequel, but it really was awful. So I think they should have done a better job with that. But other than that, puzzle games, Facebook is notorious for sucking you into whatever puzzle games. Like I play Candy Crush, and there's some farm one that's basically the same principle. You match combinations of things, and that's pretty good for brainless gaming, and it sucks your time.
And on that note, do you think playing those games growing up actually pushed you in the direction of writing fantasy or liking, that genre more? Maybe.
There was a dragon one, I can't remember. It's not Dragon Warrior or something, that there were several installations, and that was purely fantasy And I know I played that one. I remember you have to kill a lot of slimes in that one. But I haven't seen a new installation for that one out. Final Fantasy originally started as medieval fantasy-like, but then they started getting airships, and there was a lot more tech involved, so I kind of tumbled into steampunk, and I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of other punks in there. And the Final Fantasy series is actually the inspiration for my my Chaos Factor series, which is the unrequited and besotted series. So it definitely has had an effect on my writing. And I totally lost my train of thought. But yeah, like I played a lot of video games growing up. I think that it helped with the storytelling, because one of the attractions to RPGs is that they have a great story. It's not like a first person where you're just shooting and blowing things up. I mean, you have to use your brain. You have to remember, oh, this character has this backstory, and this happened to this character, and there's puzzles within the game and mini games within the games, and yeah, I mean, they're not for the faint of heart.
Okay, one more question, which might have a bunch of follow-up questions. What do you find is your most effective marketing route that you take?
I'm awful with marketing. I actually started this podcast in an attempt to improve my marketing, and then I realized, wait, I've got anxiety disorder. Why the hell did I sign up for this? I think Facebook is my social media of choice. I've been on Facebook as soon as it became available to the public. Some people may not know that it was limited to only college students. So I remember seeing my older brother posting on Facebook, and I couldn't log in, and I'm like, well, what the hell? So as soon as that was available to the public, I signed in, and I don't know, I seem to understand Facebook better than the other social media. Like, I do not get Instagram, I do not get Twitter, although I have a Twitter account. I like sharing pictures about how I envision my world. I like sharing pictures that say, hey, this could be my character. I like asking questions, because social media isn't about advertising. It's about connecting with your audience. It's about meeting your readers on the same level. So I've had people comment that they like all the pictures I share because it gives them an insight to the Wilderlands, which is where my first book takes place. So as far as effectiveness, I don't know. I've heard a lot of people say that marketing is just kind of something that you do, and it's hard to measure effectiveness, because you could do an event, 3 months ago, and then you see the effect of the event. It's all cumulative. So you can't not market, but you need to do something that's comfortable for you. Because if you really push yourself out there and go out of your comfort zone, it's kind of obvious and you turn people off.
All right, Amy, you have any questions?
I do have another question, actually. So this occurred to me while we were talking. Process, and I don't think we really asked you much about your writing process, but do you, first of all, do you outline, is a question, or are you a pantser? And second of all, do you listen to music or have the television on, or are there things that, you need to write in a cold, dark space with, no heat and only a candle to light your computer screen? Like, are there certain aspects of the room, the setting that you feel most comfortable writing in? What's your process when you're sitting down to write for the day?
Well, my process evolved from falsely starting a bunch of stories to through the NaNoWriMo finishing and pushing through. So when I first, Stealing the Wolf Prince was completely pantsed. I kind of had an idea, I had the key scene in my head. I knew that was what I wanted to do, have that in there, and then I had to ask myself, why? Why did this happen? How did this happen? How did we get here? And then, like, you notice towards the end, some things kind of get surprising. That's because I pantsed the whole thing. And it was a nice way to discover the story, because as I'm writing it, I'm discovering it's not just the reader that's along for the ride, it's me. But as I evolve, I'm also learning a little more about outlining and how it can save my fanny in the process. Like, a lot less editing, a lot less going back and saying, hey, what did I say his eye color was? Or what was his last name? So I think my process is always going to be evolving. It's never going to, I don't think I'm ever going to reach a point where I'm like, well, this is the perfect system. And it's going to be different for everybody too. So if anybody is listening and wants to write their own, it's going to be different. I mean, you can try to emulate your favorite author's process, but, you know, it may not work for you. And before I had kids, I could, like with the NaNoWriMo, I could get home from work and write until my word count was done and go to bed, or make it up on a Saturday. And that's not the case anymore. I've got 2 small children. They're 7 and 3. So I have to make use of nap times, and I have to use my lunch hour at work. So I bring my laptop to work, and I find a conference room for my 1-hour lunch, and I sit in there and I write or edit or whatever it is I need to do for the day. That's very helpful because I don't have internet. I don't have a hotspot on my laptop. So there's no distractions as long as I put my phone down. And as long as I've got music, I do listen to music, and I've got no distraction in my view. So like my desk, this is my writing desk I'm sitting at right now, and it's in a corner. So I can't see what's going on behind me or to the side. And that's perfect, because if I see things going on, I get distracted. And that's also why I find a conference room at work, so that I can't see people walking down the hall. I'm not going to get somebody that's going to stop and say, hey, what are you doing? Because I'm in a conference room with the door shut. And that's my process now. And that could change when my kids get older, or if I have to change jobs, or if we move buildings, because there's a lot of moving and shaking at the day job right now. But yeah, I definitely have to have music. I can't have talking. If I hear talking, I start writing down what I'm hearing and not what I want to write. So I can't do TV. I can't do movies. I have been known to watch X-Files, though, and do my marketing. But that's totally different.
Okay, another question occurred to me just now, too. I love how that happens. So if you could write a novel with any author of your choosing, now, who would you most like to write or co-write a novel with, and why?
Well, don't hate me, but I'm a control freak, so I don't think I'd do very well with co-writing. But I do really like the works of Kresley Cole. I really like her Mortals After Dark series. And actually reading her novels kind of helped me with how to handle point of view for having 2 different main characters, which you do in a romance. You have the hero and heroine. So I totally wouldn't mind working with her or workshopping with her. She's kind of like an automatic one-click for me. Most of her paranormal stuff, I haven't read any of her contemporary, but I'm too much of a control freak. You know, like, it's my creative process, and this is me, and I put a lot of myself in my work, so I don't know if I'd play well with others in that regard. Sorry.
I have to agree. I have never co-written anything with anyone, but I find that even writing in someone else's universe can be a struggle, because change things or add things, or if I want to play with the timeline a little bit, it's not an option. So I feel you a little bit with the having a little bit too much control over your own story to let anybody else in your sandbox.
Yeah,
so
probably Kindle World.
Yeah, like Kindle World.
Kindle World, like I would have a hard time letting go. I'd be like, people are like writing things about the world that I've created. I'm like, no. I just, yeah, no, well, we won't mess with that.
Yes, Takamo Universe, which is an MMO. I literally have like timelines of incidents and other people and other people's works that I have to refer back to see, did you say this person, did you ever mention this person? Or, you know, I have to jive my process with their process, which sometimes is hard for me. And I find it a bit more difficult than just sitting down at the computer universe and my own timeline, my own galaxy, my own whatever the process may be. But Paulina, did you have any follow-up questions for Elle before we wrap?
No, I'm good. I actually asked all my questions. I can ask some, like, you know, boxes of briefs questions, but I don't know how that'll go over very well. Wine or beer, but we know you like beer.
I don't like beer.
But you're always drinking beer.
That's because that's what we have.
Oh. Wine?
It has to be sweet. Yeah, I like wine. It has to be sweet. So I like sweet wines. And there's certain beers that are, like, there's a blueberry beer I like. There's a pumpkin spice that I should start looking for that comes out this time of year. But, yeah, it has to be sweet. I don't like anything hoppy, and I don't like anything malty. So, yeah, beer is not my beverage of choice.
Okay, how about if there was no money limit, and your kids were going to be at a babysitter watched with a responsible adult, and your husband and you can go on the most romantic 2-week vacation you could think of, where would you want to go? And
I know where my husband would go, but if it's up to me, we would go tour England, Ireland, and Scotland. I want to see castles. I want to learn about the history, and my husband would not complain about a pub crawl because he is the beer drinker. Yeah, definitely go to Ireland. Plus, they speak English, so I wouldn't have to worry about translations. Well, if you get too far north, you might have difficulty.
Well, that sounds actually pretty cool. 2 weeks over off the States, nice wine, real beer, you know, the normal stuff. All right, Amy, any questions? Guess not. And
no questions.
Okay. And is there anything you want to tell your listeners before we close out?
Well, I do have a new release. If you like steampunk, check out my Besotted novella that just released the end of last month. If you don't know what steampunk is, check out Unrequited. That is free on Amazon and all platforms. You can find me at elleclouse.com, ELLECLOUSE.com. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter, and I've got a blog. I think that's pretty much all my social media. It's like I said, I'm bad at marketing. But yeah, drop me a line, leave a comment on any of my social media.
You're not bad at marketing. We're still new. We'll get there. And then we'll be like gods of marketing. Anyways, thanks for watching. Or we'll hire
somebody.
Huh?
Or we'll hire somebody.
Yeah, that way. But thanks for watching me bumble around today. I've been your host. If you like the show, like, comment, and share. And visit us at focusonfantasyromance.com. And good night.
Good night.
What magical places lay beyond Northam's stone walls? What lands are these where wolf-kin howl in the dark of night? Once a man, now a beast. In the darkness the creature calls, mourning the lass whom he wronged and lost, but must make right. To the wilder lands we go, to mythos and magic, to the forbidden unknown. May the gods be merciful on those who venture within these wilder lands. Read Stealing the Wolf Prince by Elle Clouse. Available at these fine retailers.